Hey, welcome back, rankers. Yes, I'm at Pisa 2014. And if you think I've got a large gash on the side of my face, well, guess what? You're right. You see, interesting story. In case you're wondering what Pisa is, it's the Professional eBay Sellers Alliance Conference, and it's all about e-commerce. Great conference. And I come every year speaking. We're exhibiting this year. A lot of great stuff. Anyway, so it's on the Gold Coast. I live in Melbourne. So last night I was packing because I enjoy leaving things to the last moment. I love the thrill of the deadline, and I was getting a piece of luggage from a great height, and thought it's only a piece of luggage, right? It's quite light. They're designed that way for travel. I can catch that from this great height, and of course, you think one thing about something. But there's nothing quite like when it hits you in the face, you have a totally different perspective, literally. And that's what happened to me, because unbeknownst to me, the piece of luggage in question had been filled with a large amount of other items for storage because we recently moved. So it was a great deal heavier than what I expected, and my face got the full brunt of it, which brings me to this week's show. It's funnily enough. So there was a Panda update last week, and of course, you know, the day after I do the show, Google releases a major update. Thank you, Google. And Panda is all about quality, right? And you think you know one thing about your website, but there's another thing when you look at it and you see it in a different light and it hits you right in the face, and you go, that's what's wrong with my website. Nice segue. Do you like that? So I wanted to show you a tool that isn't used a lot, but it can be really, really helpful. And we've been using it a little bit more recently because the Panda update was good for most of our clients. There's a couple they didn't really suffer, but they haven't really moved like they should have, and the rankings haven't really gone up like they should have. And so, you know, this is our tool almost of last resort in a lot of ways, because most of the stuff that we do, you find and identify a lot of the issues or problems. And the tool I'm talking about is a Google one, and it's a free tool, and it's called the text-only version of the Google cache. And what it can tell you, so the search I've done here is SEO consultant, and what I want to have a look at is how does Google see this page, this SEO consultant Melbourne page. Incidentally, I just want to run a test here. Where does Google think I am at the moment? Does it think I'm in Queensland? No, it doesn't. Use my location. See if it can find me. I'm on 4G, so it should, right? And it thinks I am in Melbourne. It's weird. Google location. If you're mobile, for some reason, it doesn't work, but if you're hardwired, it does. So we go Gold Coast, Queensland. Okay. So, it's nice, still up the top there, and so we've got the search going here, and what I want to see is how does Google see this page? And you go to the cached link, and you get this nice page. It is just the same version of your page when Google saw it. So what Google does, it crawls a web page and then sticks it in its database, right? And this is a version of the page that it's stuck in its database and what it's making its decisions on. So you can see here, up here it says it appeared on the 26th of May, we crawled this. Now this doesn't mean that was the last time the page was crawled, okay? This basically, and this is yesterday, this basically means the last time that the cache was updated. So Google can come to your site, and in our case it's about 30, 40 times a day. It may have seen this page twice yesterday, but it would have been today as well. It's probably seen this page again today, but it hasn't updated the cache yet. Now I've got lighting going here, which is actually the iPhone light, and I'm going to move that so I can see this text-only version right across the other side of the page. Can you see that? That's one that people don't use a lot, and the reason that's important is that it strips away all the images, it strips away the style sheets and those sorts of things. And what it does do is it highlights to you how the Google bot is looking at the page. Remember, Google doesn't understand what an image is. Google's pretty clever. And yeah, you can do image search and those sorts of things, and it'll find images that look the same and all that sort of stuff. But essentially, this is how Google is judging your web page as to whether what it should rank it for. So this bit up the top here, this is the menu that we have at the top of the page. This is part of that same menu. It's saying, you know, get the email straight to your inbox. This is the heading on the page, SEO Consultant Melbourne. Now this is a H1. This is the social share button stuff here. There's two tweet links here, which I think I know why, and that is because if I go and have a look at the page, Google is looking at, all of a sudden my bandwidth is slowed to a crawl, but there's a tweet button here, and there's actually two links in that tweet share button, and then we go into the meat of the content. This here is actually an image of some results, and you can see there what that text is. That's actually the alt text that I put with the image, and the link there is going to a larger version of the image, which WordPress does. And you can see there we've got a match between what have we got, SEO Consultant Melbourne SERP, and then we've got SEO Consultant Melbourne Results.png, which is the name of the image. And then we have this is actually that's the title of the link. This is the alt tag. Beg your pardon. That's the caption. That's the caption of the image. So you can see here we've got SEO Consultant Melbourne, SEO Consultant Melbourne, SEO Consultant Melbourne, SEO Consultant Melbourne. Now a lot of people will tell you, oh, that's overdoing it, that's over SEOing things. No, it's not, because if you read it, it makes sense in context. It's when it doesn't make sense and it's hard to read that you're probably overdoing it. If it's good for the reader, it's good for Google, so don't worry about it. And then here, same thing, this is some images. These are the captions for the images, image captions for the image, and then updates and our tags, previous posts, and so on. Now, if you do this from one of your own pages, and you find that you've got blocks of text that are all bold and big like that, and they're all the same size, or you've got little ones up the top and you've got big ones down the bottom, and they're all juxtapositions all over the place, that means that your H1s, H2s, and H3s aren't structured properly, probably. The other thing that we have found with a couple of clients on this is that they had hidden widgets in the code, and what we didn't know is that Google was seeing them before it saw anything else. In the case of one client, it had a widget which was I think it was a chat widget, and basically at the top of the page there are about 5 outbound links at the top of every page across the site. Now in the code, it was right down the bottom of the code, we didn't see it, but just because of the way that it was coded, Google was reading that first. And this is the page that will reveal those sorts of things to you. The other thing that we saw in another site was that the main menu was being repeated twice. And the reason that Google was seeing it twice looked fine for the user, but they had a desktop menu and then they had a mobile menu. And when you hit the page on the desktop, the website knew that you were coming from a desktop computer, and it would say, don't show the mobile menu. And if you came from mobile, it would say, don't show the desktop menu. But when Google came along, it went, oh, here's all the menus, take them all. Crawl, all of them. That's fine. That's a problem, because that's a quality issue, really. And there's better ways of coding it than that. Now, you could argue that, yeah, but if it was fine for the user, I mean, that's Google's problem, the way that's reading the site. Yeah, probably, but do you want to have that argument? I know that a lot of SEOs have been basically condemning Google for the latest Panda update and saying how it's caught so many innocent businesses and all the rest of it. And that's true. That's true. That's definitely true. But what are you going to do? Seriously. Someone said, I was reading one blog post by Sugar Ray, who's a great SEO, and she was saying that, it's how many ways can you write about a pair of shoes? My argument to that would be, if you've got an e-commerce site, that don't worry. I mean, try to have unique descriptions for your products if you can, but get a blog, get some content, start to engage with your audience. That'll get you ranked, and then the e-commerce side of things, which is what I'm talking about up here this week, will be dragged along behind that bigger content strategy, and you'll get the backlinks for it. So those smaller level things like, oh, my product catalog, I have to go and write heaps of keywords and blurbs about each product. Well, not really. Try to keep it unique. If you're taking a feed from a manufacturer, that's probably going to be a little harder, especially if it's a large catalog. But if you can do it, do it. But then above and beyond that, have a content strategy. And forget about Google for a moment. The content strategy is a great one because it starts to bring people back to your site. They start to know a little bit more about the business and who they're dealing with. It gives them confidence in trading with you. It lets them maybe spread the word to their friends because they love your updates, they love what you're talking about. If you're a shoe shop, then talk about fashion. It doesn't always have to be about shoes. But because you're doing those sorts of things, you're constantly updating, so Google's constantly coming back. Every piece of new content that you add is another chance to rank. And so it's all very well to complain about the Google update and Panda and how it's clobbered some e-commerce sites that may have a large catalog with very, very small product descriptions. But that's not your only option for content. And if you're saying, yeah, but I'm a retailer, I'm not a content marketer, I'm sorry, but everybody's a content marketer now. Or really, if you're not, your competitor will be. And that's it for this week's show. If you're at Pisa this week, come and say hello. I'll try not to be too scary. I brought my wife's makeup, and we're going to cover that up. I can't even remember what side it's on. I'm going to cover that up, and hopefully I won't look as scary tomorrow. Thanks very much. See you then. Bye.